We're gonna get started in a minute. We're gonna get started in a minute. We're just waiting on the mayor. She should be down shortly. I'm gonna go ahead and start the city council meetings. My name is Karen Renee, Vice Mayor Pro Tem. And when the mayor comes in, we'll allow her to go ahead and take over and facilitate the meeting. All right. Oh, okay. All right. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I just been informed that the mayor's not gonna be able to make it tonight. Okay. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
All right, okay. Councilmember Shropshire will not be present this evening. Councilmember Robertson, Councilmember Renee, Councilmember Bailey, Councilmember Cummings, Councilmember Cook, Councilmember Butler, and Councilmember Gordon will also not be in attendance today. Mayor Pro Tem Renee, we have a quorum.
Thank you so much. Invocation by Reverend Tanya Clark. I don't see her. So we'll stand for a moment of silence, and then from there, we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Our Sergeant of Arms tonight is Captain Robinson. Thank you for your service, really appreciate it. And now we'll go into presentations and announcements. City Council members, do you have any presentations or announcements? Right now, we'll take Public Works City Manager. We'll have Public Works Division, Transportation.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem and council members and our guests this evening. We're going to invite up Jeffrey Reeves, our Public Works Director, who will give our presentation for Public Works, along with Cadell Hall, the Assistant Public Works Director, who will join him as well.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Jeff Reeves, Public Works Director, along with Transportation Manager, Mr. Cadell Hall, and our Transportation Engineer, Ms. Chardonnay Fenton. This evening, we come to present to you, do a presentation, brief but descriptive presentation of the transportation projects that we have in the city of East Point. We will identify some projects that are ongoing, give you an update on those. We'll identify some other projects that have traffic calming, and we will give you an update on that. We will also give you an update on future projects that we plan to submit to Mayor and Council for your approval in the future. So without further ado, I'll pass this baton over to our Transportation Manager, Mr. Cadell Hall.
Good evening, everyone. Myself and Ms. Chardonnay Fenton here, we're going to present to you our list of projects. We have them broken out by the different phases that projects, by construction, design, and so forth. And so I'll start with Ms. Fenton, beginning our presentation.
Right. Good evening. I'm going to start with our construction projects. We currently have 6 active projects going on within the city from out of our office. For our first project, we have the L Circle intersection project, that's the alignment project. Our Headland Drive and Delow Drive intersection project. New to the list is our North Commerce Drive and Red Wine Road. That project consists of changing the intersection from a 4-way stop to a signalized intersection. We also have the GDOT LCI Downtown Multimodal Improvement Project. That includes our utility relocation and, okay, can you hear me now? Great, all right. Streetscape. And we also have the Ben Hill Sidewalk Project. Yes, that's our lone sidewalk project from Washington Road to Headland. Our last project is the sidewalk project. This contract is actually includes all the listed locations we have here. These segments include Connolly Drive, Headland Terrace, Mount Olive Road, Dotson Drive, and Sylvan Road. Our contractor actually has already started on this project, and they're currently on Headland Terrace. We also have our construction on-call. This is a 3-year contract. With this contract, the contractor will be able to do random on-call services for asphalt and sidewalk. Our first task work order will be the school zones where they'll be doing signing and pavement markings.
So next I want to go over our projects that we have in design or right-of-way acquisition, where we're acquiring property for construction. First project is a GDOT-funded resurfacing project. We apply for grant funding from GDOT to resurface some of our commercial areas or non-residential areas that have high freight volumes. And those, we were awarded that funding in 2022 to resurface Washington Road from Main Street to North Commerce Drive, from Washington Road, Red Wine Road, and Center Parkway. So that is currently in the planning phase, and we're anticipating that be let for construction probably April, I think, is the let date from GDOT. So that's a big chunk of paving that the city is getting grant funding or assistance for paving the streets. The next project we have in design is North Commerce Drive sidewalk project, and that's from Marketplace Boulevard to Red Wine Road. That's a missing connection between the intersection improvements that we're currently doing and the connection of sidewalks to the marketplace. So we're currently getting that design, and hopefully we'll get it constructed with the same contractor under the same contract eventually. So we anticipate getting a draft of that this month and hopefully finalizing the design by February. And one of the last ones on the slide now is our Janus Drive intersection project. We have completed the design. We have acquired all but 2 of the parcels or right-of-way that we need for the project, and we hopefully have all of the right-of-way finished by January. At that point, we'll put the project out to bid for construction. Continuation of our projects that we have in design, we have some of our traffic calming projects. We have these broken down into 2 different lists. The first list are traffic calming studies and designs. These are areas that we've already collected the data. We've already identified that there were problems with speeding or there were some safety issues, and we move forward with getting a consultant to design the actual traffic calming measures for us to install. We currently had a draft of the design for all these locations that we're reviewing, and hopefully we can get it finalized and get a cost estimates and everything back by the beginning of the year. The next list we have listed here is traffic calming study services, and these are locations that were outside of the scope for us to do internally. So we hired a consultant to go out and collect the data, review the crashes, review the existing conditions, come back and give us a report of their findings. They're putting together our study and a draft for us to review as well. So we should be hopefully getting that back within the next month or so too. And the consultants are going to come back before council and present their findings at these locations. Continuation of our design projects. We recently got proposals for design on Dotson Drive from Earl Godfrey Circle to Hogan Road. This will be tying in the connecting with the existing sidewalks on Dotson Drive from Sykes Park, going up to Hogan Road. So we currently have proposals, and we're going to be awarding a designer for that project as well. Next, we have another grant funded with GDOT project, and this is for the multimodal improvements downtown from Cleveland Avenue to Walmart Avenue. This is a scoping project where we're going to be reviewing the feasibility of continuing the streetscape project downtown, going north towards our city limits, picking up from where the current project will be leaving off. So we've already put that out for requests for proposals with procurement. We've gotten the proposals, and we have to evaluate them and select a design firm to start that project. Our next project is another grant-funded project. We received funding from the DOT for our multimodal path networks, and this will be from Norman Berry Drive from Sumter Park to Virginia Avenue, basically continuing our first phase of our model mile, designing it going to south to or east to Virginia Avenue. Sorry. This project is currently out to bid for proposals from designers. So hopefully we have those back later this month to review. We wanted to touch on some of our other initiatives that we have in the transportation department. We've been working with all the other departments in the city on a gateway and wayfinding signage project. We've been working with the consultants to narrow down our designs, and we've become full council along with the consultants to present the options that we've selected. So myself, the planning department, city manager's office as well, be reviewing those. As well as along with the HR department, we're working on the ADA transition plan. We're reviewing all of the city's facilities for ADA compliance.
So new to our office, we have our traffic calming manual. With this manual, we developed it based off of the Federal Highway Administrating and the GDOT traffic calming guidelines. With this manual, readers will be able to review our application process, our review process, and they'll also be able to get summaries on different types of traffic calming measures and also images of the different type of traffic calming measures that we will use within the city.
So just wanted to add that this is a supplement or additional literature to accompany our policy that we approve. So it'll just be some readings and kind of give a better understanding of the traffic calming process to the public.
And it'll be made available on the city's website.
Yes, and this will be available to the public on the website when it's finalized. So with that, we wanted to open the floor up to any questions.
All right, Mr. Cook.
That is Councilman Cook, right?
Sorry, Mr. Cook. Councilman Cook.
You guys have already answered one of my three questions. I won't repeat it. But help me clear my fog. T-Spots 1 ended or will end, is it December 2023?
T-Spots 1?
Yes.
T-Spots 1 ended, I think, May of 2022.
2022. Okay.
Yes, sir.
I want to make sure that we were already in T-Spots number 2.
Yes, sir.
All right. One of the things I've learned to appreciate is that you try to keep your schedule as tight as you can, but you can't control everything because the number one factor you need is the money. And you really don't know when you're going to get enough to do whatever particular phase that you're in. But how is that coming so far? And mention the fact that T-Spots 2 has more than twice or about twice of what T-Spots 1 had in terms of total revenue.
And then Councilman Cook, in answering your question or to address your question, you're absolutely right. We have to identify the funding in every project that we have. And once those projects in T-Spots 1 and T-Spots 2, what we did is we tried to get an estimation of what those projects will consist of based on the linear foot or the mileage or so forth. And then we try to take that in account with some of our other processes that we use to evaluate roads, and then that's how we select the roads that we're working on. Right now, every project that you see that we mentioned today is either finished completion of the T-Spots 1, a few projects are in T-Spots 2, and then also the funding that we have on all those projects are already funded. So everything that you see that we presented to you this evening is already funded. with an exception with the traffic calming. Those are projects that we'll either identify during our resurfacing, or we'll have to identify the direct funding with that from our general fund to install whatever may be needed for those traffic calming.
Which one is the biggest threat for you on a day-to-day basis? Is it the flow of the cash or the weather?
It's probably the process.
The process is the most time consuming of just going through all of the design, and sometimes the right-of-way acquisition may think it's going to take 6 months, may take a year or so, depending on how the property owners are. Just going through the entire process of getting from design to getting it put out. It's more time consuming than sometimes you anticipate, but funding, of course, is always a big issue, like you said.
And I end with this comments. I think the laying of the sidewalks on Ben Hill, I think you're breaking a record with how fast that's working.
Yeah.
We're inspecting them as we go. We're watching them every day, so, yeah.
Councilmember Robinson.
Thank you, Madam Pro Tem. Great presentation, and I see there's been so much great work in getting done in round East Point, and also in particular in Ward 8, so I'm happy to see that. In reference to just a normal neighborhood association or just an individual, when now they are looking at something change, when they're still trying to get, say, some traffic calming measures, are they going to the manual now, or are they still trying to get a petition? Because most people are trying to get speed bumps, but we know it's a bigger picture than that. So what's the normal procedure? I see the manual and it's great. So do you suggest that they look at that, or is there another procedure in place, or this is just added value?
No, we still want the procedure for them to submit it to us. What we're trying to do is trying to streamline the process. That's by bringing on the contractor or to review the projects for us. That's helping us to streamline that, because that was slowing us down with the amount of work that our transportation department was having to handle. The traffic calming kind of took a back seat. And then we also try to reach out to the other departments as well as MARTA on our projects to look at what the impact might be. So streamlining with our contracting company, that's going to tell us where we might need to have the projects at. We'll streamline that process, but we still want them to go ahead and submit them as normal. The manual is a guidance to guide them through or walk them through those steps in order to apply for that.
Great, and just two quick follow-ups. One, again, in that Sims area, you and I went out there, I think last year, this year, and I still hear that they have not got what they're looking for. So I hope we're still working with that particular neighborhood on that area. I think it's a two-part process. They have to finish what they need in order to so you can get the process started. Don't know where we are, but I'd like to see some type of additional movement, because I'm still hearing that nothing is.
Yes, sir. And with Cadell, one of the things that he has identified with these projects is that once we receive something from an individual street, we try to encompass that whole neighborhood, because we've seen that once we put some traffic calmings on one street, it just directs traffic to another street that may not have it. So overall, we're trying to create a whole project so we can have it to analyze it and to be able to have that information. So if we need to add or address something, it won't have to come from the residents. It'll come from us, because we'll already have that information.
Great. And last follow-up, I'm so happy to see some movement on the gateways. We've talked about that,
Yes,
and I can't wait to see some final design concepts. I think it's something that East Point really needs. So keep up the good work in that. I just can't wait to see it.
Yes, sir.
I yield, Madam Pro Tem.
Yes, sir.
Councilmember Bailey.
Thank you, Madam Pro Tem. Thank you so much for your presentation. I have just a couple questions. One is pertaining to the sidewalks that you're proposing at Sylvan.
Yes, ma'am.
It starts at Cedar, is that correct? In November, so you all just have a couple more weeks to get started?
Yeah, well, probably about 30, 45 days. The contract has already been signed. It's just a matter of us getting that project going, getting them to get going, but it's already done. Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. They're going to pick their locations of where they're going to go ahead and start. Like how I said, they started at Headlands Terrace, and from there they'll go to the next location. Everything should be completed within the next 6 months. So all locations will be completed within the next 6 months.
All right, thank you so much. Also, you mentioned as far as the traffic calming measures being holistic. I noticed that a couple of the petitions that were submitted were not listed there, and I'm thinking you're still addressing it, like on Wilburn Drive. in Jefferson Park. I know that was a petition that was submitted, maybe a couple petitions were submitted. So we'll make sure we get those to you all so you can, because I know you have a company that's come on board to help facilitate that study. Is that correct?
Yeah, Windburn's already on our radar. Once those speed humps are put in on Jefferson Avenue, we knew that it began to have more traffic to impact Windburn as well. So we're looking at as well. And then also what Chardonnay had mentioned about the projects, the other thing that what we try to do is when we put it out for solicitation to get the best out of our solicitation, as well as keeping it with a contractor who has everything they need to have on site, which actually speeds up the projects. We grouped in several streets and several areas and several wards. So that contractor is working on several projects. So they could start clearing on one project and then move to their next phase while they start clearing on another project. So that's going to help us expedite things as well.
That's really good to hear. Another question relates to updating water and sewer. Are you all in collaboration with the water and sewer? I asked that because I know in East Washington, they made mention that they wondered when they would get the same updates in water and sewer as the updates that are happening in Jefferson Park. So will that delay the traffic calming measures in neighborhoods that have not received the updates in the water?
That's something that and I apologize, we had planned on addressing that part about working with water and sewer. Sometimes it may delay it, but we try to look at those projects prior to our engineers and their engineers from that department to communicate very well. We have several projects where we're partnering with them right now with water and sewer to make sure that those projects are working smoothly. So yes, it may hold up some, but we pretty much will not put those projects out if they have something that they have coming in 6 or 8 months. We won't put those projects out right there. As far as traffic calming is concerned, we'll try to use other measures that we may need to do other than maybe putting in speed humps or road resurfacing to try to maybe do some stop signs or things like that, as well as signage to maybe start to alleviate some of those problems that you might be having.
I appreciate that information.
Yes, ma'am.
One other question pertaining to Lee Street and Egan Park. I know that there was some consideration whether or not it could possibly be a one-way or curb cutout, and I noticed that wasn't listed there. Will that be considered, and when you get input from the residents in Egan Park?
Yes, still being considered, and we will take information from Egan Park, as well as we want to mention that we're available for neighborhood meetings. One of the three of us can attend that if we all don't attend, but we're available to attend those meetings. I know you have set up some. You're trying to set up some type of virtual, and we were telling you that we were presenting today, so you allowed us to present this today. But we are available to come out into the communities by invitation. We won't come, we don't have to, but we will if you request us to.
I think
Sure.
that would be great, just like a virtual meeting, so they can just
Yes, ma'am.
ask specific questions. Because I noticed that Colonial Hills, they have a speed bump there, but it's very high. So I don't know if you would have addressed that in correcting it.
Well, we took those out a couple years ago, and they made us put them back in like that. So, but we will address anything that's common that's going on, and with whatever the neighborhood, as long as it's a community.
Request.
Everybody in the community is feeling the same way about something, we'll definitely address things.
Okay. Thank you so much
ma'am.
for your information.
And we're always available. I don't know if we had our Public Works Office number up there, but we're on the website. This information that we presented to you today will be on the website, as well as our projects. We're trying to work with our GIS representative here in the city to try to put something up there where people can go in there and they can plug in and click a link, and they can see what's happening in their neighborhoods that's currently going on and any future plans that we might have. So we're just going to try to make sure that we're kind of moving with that as well.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you. I just have a few things. One, I want to commend you because a lot of the cities have the T-Splosh, and East Point has been the most aggressive in moving through the process and getting the contractors in and getting our projects completed. So I want to commend you for that because other cities are still lagging and complaining about a lot of the work is just not getting done. And I think y'all are snagging all of the contractors up,
Yes,
which is a
ma'am.
really good thing. Thank you for your efforts. I mean, it's really paying off. Norman Berry, and this is just a suggestion, because I'm so glad to see you have it on here. You know how that, and this is for East Washington and also River Park. They have a creek that comes through there, right on Normanberry where Calhoun is, and it goes a little bit further down where they almost meet the Flint River, but not quite so. If we could look at trying to enhance that, like maybe put like some sidewalks along that creek, a little bridge or something, I just think that would be absolutely so great as a added value in that community and also over in River Park. Because they kind of have it over there in a sense, but I think that the aesthetics of it, I think it would be absolutely great. Like clean the bank down, and I'm not saying it has to be in this project. I'm just saying like for future, like let's look at that. It has always been kind of like a big dream of mine to see that come out. When I'm in, I don't know. Anyway, so sometimes like in DC, they kind of in culture, they bring all the culture that you have for the green space and they make a walking area. And I just think that that place will look absolutely great. It'll tie in the Gateway all the way down to Virginia Avenue in Egan Park, and it'll tie in East Washington and also with River Park as well. I just think we could brainstorm a little bit more, but I just thought that would be really cool.
Oh, absolutely. And that's something that we can partner with our water and sewer stormwater division as well, because they handle a lot of that off the sites. But between the two of us, we should be able to come up with something that would enhance the area as well. And we're also looking at Vail. So we didn't mention that,
yeah.
but Vail is still on
Yeah.
our radar as well as Lee. We even talked recently about the project that's coming in on I want to make sure we address these things so they be out there on the table. The Washington Avenue project that's coming in there with the new apartments, and we know that's going to increase traffic over there. So one of the things that we're trying to do is kind of sit back to see what that is and then come back and do our traffic study so we can really encompass what really is going to be impacted in that area. We were looking at, there was a mention about taking the road down to Normanberry.
Thank you.
That may not be, but we have an idea. We have an idea to do some connectivity with our walking path.
And
So coming down that hill, we may create some type of walking path coming down that hill, which also will be a landscape project as
So
well. We're
walking-
looking at that.
that would be great. But let me tell you, we're getting a lot of phone calls in that area because of KIPP Academy. And at 6:30, the cars start, the parents, they start lining up. And what they're doing is they're blocking driveways in. And it's a very slow moving process, and people are being delayed for work because it's only one way in, the way they got traffic flowing in there, and one way out. And so by us adding on 100 more units in the back, it will probably be even greater for them to drop their kids off and they can just keep straight down and exit off of the Normanberry, and then it could be a one-way street or something like that. It doesn't have to be a two-way street in and out, but just kind of consider it. And thank you for having that on your radar.
And it's on our radar, yes, ma'am.
I appreciate that.
And both our transportation, Cadell and Chardonnay, both of them have been out there. They've even talked to the crossing guard to see when the time of day, where the largest numbers of cars are during that period of time. So we're looking at that as well.
I appreciate that. Are there
Yes,
any more
yes, ma'am.
questions? Oh, Councilmember Butler.
Thank you, Madam Pro Tem, Mayor Pro Tem. I just have one quick question. Could you talk to us about the timeline of L Circle and the delay into the completion until April? Just give us a
We're
heads up
prepared.
on what happened.
Yes, sir. We're prepared for that.
Yes, sir. The L Circle project, we've had some hiccups on for one, we were getting permitting in the beginning of the project, kind of set us back maybe 5 to 6 months. But we went through the Army Corps of Engineering permitting process where we had to buy the credits and get permission for them to start the project. But also, what was that?
There were no credits.
There were no credits available, correct. So we had to wait until credits were available from another water source and buy them. So that delayed the project a lot. We couldn't do any disturbance to the area until those credits were purchased. Now we're still dealing with a wetland area down the L Circle. So we have to go through and do some modifications to the design to further stabilize the area before we continue building the roadway up. So we had to go in and bring in some extra material, do some extra compaction and everything that wasn't initially on the scope. So that's some of the reasons that we were having delays. But now that we're getting past those, you see the projects continuing to build up the road now. So we're kind of back on track. But those are some of the reasons why we had delays. Oh, the timeline for completion, we gave the contractor a new substantial completion date of April 1st to complete the project. Welcome.
Thank you for your
And,
presentation.
Councilman,
Okay,
I'm sorry,
Go ahead. Come
and
on.
Councilman Butler, just to add to that, and like I said, we were prepared for that. If you look at that road, and I think a lot of residents and people who travel through there may not understand, that road has to be built up. That road has to be built up to the level of Washington Road and Al Circle, and right now, we're almost 20 feet below that grade. So that tells you how much work that has to be done in building that up. And when you have that wetland type of water, sources of soil there, you have to do a little bit more of drying it out or diverting the water to build it back up so we can stay in compliance as well. We don't want our stormwater folks to come after us there.
Mr. Reed, and also if you could speak on briefly, since you're about transportation, the leaf vacuum, just a little bit about that. Not much, but
I'm
just a little.
gonna be short on that one. That's
Yes, sir.
another day, another
sir.
dollar. But yes, the leaf vacuum program does start October the 9th. And we're working it in working it along with the sanitation collection day. We're asking residents to put their leaves out on those days, and we will pick them up within a 48-hour period of time. If that hasn't happened, please give our Public Works Office a call, and we'll send staff out there. We're working in the evening time, and we'll be working on the weekends as well to collect those leaves. We just want to make sure that we ask the residents to keep them off the streets as much as possible, because they're, we don't want to have them migrating to our storm drain system. As well as us, we had to do a couple of locations this past weekend where we had to go through the curve line. Quite a bit of leaves are migrating out, not just from the piles from the resident. There's a lot of migrated leaves, so we're trying to address those issues as well to make sure we keep our storm drains clean. Yeah, and that information is on the website too as well.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank
ma'am.
you. I
And we'll be
appreciate
having
that.
some things going in flyer about that as well to
All right.
update you.
Thank you for your
Yes, ma'am.
presentation. Great presentation.
Thank
All
you.
right, so next up
Thank you.
is committee reports. Council members, do you have any? All right. Mr. Cook, Councilman Cook.
Two committees to report on. The next budget variance committee meeting will be held tomorrow at 6:30. It is a virtual meeting, and the monthly discussion should be on the month of September. I'm staring at the budget director as I'm speaking. I had a short conversation with the tax department, and tax revenues are coming in at a decent rate. It may be a month or two more before we have realized the total level of receipts. But stated again, the committee will meet tomorrow, 6:30. It is a virtual meeting. The meeting has already been announced, and the address for those who want to listen in should also be published now too. Now I want to move on to my next level of obligation, and that is the employees pension board. We had a quarterly meeting just a few days ago, but I want to read an announcement, an award that was given to key employees who helped make the pension plan as solid as it is. Public Pension Coordinating Council, Public Pension Standards Award for funding and administration for the year 2023. This award is being presented to the City of East Point Employees Retirement Plan. And I understand we have at least 3 key people who work with that operation. One is the official finance director, Miss Juanita, as I call her, but 2 other rank and file employees, one of which is Zena Daniels, who is the payroll coordinating key person in the finance division. And the second one, let me see if I get her last name pronounced correctly, is Michelle Hubert. That's the way she pronounces it. The senior HR journalist in human resources. Now, between those 3 people that I mentioned, their primary job is just to make sure the city is making the appropriate contributions to the pension portfolio that's required by the city as a sponsor for the pension plan. And next thing I want to mention is the pension plan is pretty hefty organization. The minimum requirement as it stands for right now to have a full funded pension where the actuaries aren't really looking for somebody to hang is around the level of roughly about $110 million, give or take. But we deal with one of the goals of the fiduciaries, of which I'm one of, is to do performance reviews on the various portfolios. This is one of the key things that we do to make sure that the portfolios are performing at the level that's required. And the good news for that is at last check for the last quarter, the portfolios are generally holding strong at something like $147 million. Now that is a small drop as to what it was about this time last year, where the total investment portfolio reached $160 million. But keep in mind, we are dealing with live investments here. We have a minimum that we want to maintain. The sky is not the limit, but occasionally we will have to make some adjustments. And when we do make adjustments, it's all dealing with whether or not a certain portfolio will no longer be with us. And we are reviewing some of that activity right now. Don't need to mention any names, but we're on top of things. Madam Mayor Pro Tem, that is my report.
Your report is accepted. Also, I want to commend the staff and the pension board for doing such a great job. You guys have put us in the top 10 of pension plans for the municipalities in the state of Georgia. And I think we're ranking probably number 5 or so. And I do want to say that we do appreciate that. And I'm pretty sure all the employees do as well, and the retirees. Thank you so much. All right, so adoption of the city council agenda. Can I get a motion?
The motion that we adopt the agenda.
Second. It's moving properly second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, so approval of the city council minutes.
Madam Mayor, I make a motion that we approve the city council minutes, regular meeting, November the 6th, 2023.
It is moving properly second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, public hearing. And I have a quick question, city attorney. I noticed on the back page where we have 2022, 24, 25, and 26, and 27, they all look like public hearings to me. So we may need to address those first.
Madam Mayor Pro Tem, good afternoon, Mayor and Council.
Mhm.
You are saying 21, 22?
No, 22, the budget, and we have to wait the first reading is an adoption of the ordinance.
Correct.
And then we have also 23, that's another adoption of the ordinance. 24, 25. and
Yes, ma'am. That's correct.
26.
Did
and
you want me to,
27.
did you want me to read the,
Just 24?
just 24?
We done 23, okay.
Did you want me to read the zoning one first or just read both of them, one after the other?
Right, and that'll be great. And then we can go ahead and have all of the public hearings all at once.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
This is the one for the zoning, Madam Mayor Pro Tem. May I proceed? May I proceed?
Yes.
Okay. Public hearing procedures before adopting any change to the zoning maps or text of the zoning ordinance. The city council shall hold a public hearing following the public hearing by the Planning and Zoning Commission, where a recommendation was made on the petition. Public hearings before the city council shall be conducted as follows. The presiding officer will call for a motion to open and close the hearing. The presiding officer or his or her designee will introduce the proposed zoning amendment before the city council. Staff would then be called upon to present the planning commission's recommendation and summarize staff's written reports. Persons both favoring and opposing the proposed amendment will then be given an opportunity to address council. The applicant for the proposed amendment or applicant's desired representative, if any, will be entitled to speak first, followed by other speakers in favor of the proposal for a total of 15 minutes. Those who oppose the proposed zoning amendment would then be permitted to speak for a total of 15 minutes. By majority vote of council may increase the total time for speakers, provided that each side is given the same amount of time. If there's more than one speaker for a side, the presiding officer may limit the time allotted to each individual speaker other than the zoning applicant. The zoning applicant may reserve a portion of his or her time allotted for rebuttal. Speakers must adhere to the rules of decorum. Prior to speaking, each speaker shall identify him or herself and state his or her current address. Each speaker shall speak only to the merits of the proposed zoning decision under consideration, shall address remarks only to the council, and shall refrain from making personal attacks on any other speaker. The presiding officer may refuse a speaker the right to continue if, after being cautioned, the speaker continues to violate the rules of decorum. And then I can get to the
Mr. City Attorney, she said that the rest of them in the back, we've already had the public hearing on those.
Oh, okay.
And so that we don't have to read those. It's just this one here. You good? Thank you. So can I get a motion to open the floor?
Madam Mayor, I would like to make the motion to open the public hearing for item number 2, ordinance granting a special use permit to operate a commercial kitchen.
Second.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and fellow council. In reference to this item, address located at 1486 Willingham Drive, it's a special use permit known as case number 2023U-001-07 and variance case number 2023 VC-001-007. The applicant is Goldberg's Group Commissionary LLC. The current zoning of the property is I-1 Light Industrial. The request is for a special use permit in the I-1 Light Industrial zoning district to operate a commercial food kitchen and storage business. The applicant is also seeking a concurrent variance for relief of the distance requirement from residential property. The zoning as stated is light industrial. The future land use map designation is town center sub area 3. It's a schematic of the floor plan. Here's the schematic of the commercial kitchen and filtration notes. Staff did recommend approval with a condition. And Planning Commission also recommended approval of the special use and variance with conditions. The first condition, 1 trash receptacle must be provided constructed with masonry materials enclosed on 3 sides. The trash receptacle shall not be visible from Willingham Drive, but is in compliance with city ordinances and building code. Condition number 2, in accordance with the Willingham Corridor Study, which was adopted and incorporated in the City of East Point 2022 Comprehensive Plan on August 15th. The newly drafted East Point Equity Statement also included the said document for the special use, and it shall be conditioned as stated. Include a retail component that provides healthy food options for residents most directly impacted by the business operation and other patrons as identified in the Willingham Corridor Study. Second condition, the retail business hours shall reflect business hours of similar operations of the applicant. And the last condition, per Planning Commission, the retail component may include but shall not solely consist of a mobile food truck. This condition shall not preclude the applicant from establishing retail operations within the City of East Point.
Okay, so now the public hearing is now open. Ms. Smith, do you have the applicant here?
The applicant is here.
All right, so do the applicant, I guess you choose to speak. So come on up and speak, and then we'll open the public hearing up to the community.
Good evening, I'm Brian Pasanti. I'm the General Counsel for Goldberg's Group. Our office address is 3301 Windy Ridge Parkway, Suite 500, Atlanta, Georgia. I've got with me tonight Mr. Mark Michelle, who is our Quality Assurance Director, and he'll help comment on some of the issues that were raised in the working meeting last week. We did try and answer questions that were posed by the City Council at the working meeting in our correspondence of today, November 20th, which was tendered to the zoning office. I hope that each member of City Council and the Mayor Pro Tem were able to see that. One thing I just note for the record is your agenda item and the ordinance as read kind of abbreviates the use that we described in our application as a commercial kitchen. It's really a commercial kitchen for food production and manufacturing for airline catering with warehousing. So I just wanted to bring that up at the front because throughout the process, it's kind of slipped into a shortening of calling it a commercial kitchen. That's relevant also to our issue with the second condition that was recommended by the Planning Commission, that is be approved only with the adjoining and dual retail restaurant use. And that's difficult for us. We have laid out in that letter of today 5 reasons why we think that particular second condition should be omitted from the final approval issued by this City Council. The first is that the existing footprint is limited. We've only got 14 parking places in the front. We only have 1 access on Willingham Drive. So while we could potentially get one of the 2 uses in, it would be very difficult as a practical matter to get 2 uses in. The second thing ties into parking and access is too limited. The third thing is in the ordinance as currently proposed, there's 2 conditions, but there's no comments made about other variances that would be made. For instance, if condition 2 were imposed on us, we would need a parking variance for at least 1, if not both of the 2 uses, because we wouldn't be able to meet the parking requirements for the square footage of the food production facility and the square footage assigned to the the retail restaurant operation. Absent these variances, additional variances, the dual use project would likely fail. And then the final 2 things are the items that came up before this City Council before with LSG Sky Chefs, and that's related to 2 principal things. One is the FDA and USDA, the regulatory agencies that regulate the specific kind of commercial kitchen that will be operating here in this facility. And while we have not located in the last week a definitive regulation that would say we cannot put the 2 uses in the same facility, as a practical matter, the cost and expense of separating the 2 uses because of potential for cross-contamination would be very difficult to achieve and would make the whole project economically infeasible, at least from our perspective. The second component of that regulatory requirement is the TSA and Homeland Security requirements that apply. Even though we're not on the airport, our facility and our operations are considered cargo, which is transported to the airport and to the airlines, and therefore all the same TSA regulatory requirements that would be imposed at an airport facility would have to be imposed at this kitchen, which would include security screening of everyone that came and went, continuous background, all those kind of things that would simply not be workable with a facility that was open to the general public. And for both those reasons, in addition to the other 3, we think that the City Council should approve our application without condition 2. And I brought with me tonight Mr. Michelle, who's with Goldberg's and can comment further on the food security aspect of our application. And I would like to reserve 3 minutes for rebuttal.
Good evening, everyone. I've been tasked to get our certifications and permits through the USDA and also with the FDA. Now, with both of those different regulatory agencies, again, with the screening and separation of the food, we have to have all employees certified and checked routinely. We have to separate the usage from the FDA product and also from the USDA product. So that doesn't allow for what the city is asking us for, is to have the Department of Health I'm a former manager for Fulton County Environmental Health. So for the environmental health team to go ahead and give us a permit when there's another regulatory agency involved, that can't happen. So when there's one regulatory agency there, that's where it stands. And FDA is there with a MOU with Department of Agriculture to perform inspections. And then the USDA will be there because we'll be producing meat.
All right, so public, is there anything else from the applicants?
We'd like to reserve 3 minutes for rebuttal if there's any other questions or comments.
Yes, sir. All right, so all of those who are proponents of this applicant, please step forward. All those who are proponents for this applicant, please step forward. All of those who are in favor of this applicant, please step forward. All right, so all of those who are opposing this project, this applicant, please step forward. All of those who are opposing this applicant, please step forward. Can I get a motion?
Madam Mayor, I make the motion that we close the public hearing.
Second. Aye.
Madam Mayor, I make the motion that we approve the variance without condition 2.
Sorry.
Yes.
I'm sorry, Councilmember Renee. If he wants to approve the ordinance, the first reading has to be waived.
Madam Mayor Pro Tem, I make a motion that we waive the first reading.
Second.
So it's been moved and second. All those in favor of the first reading?
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, the motion carries. Can I make a motion? Can I get a motion to, for action, possible discussion?
Madam Mayor, I make the motion that we approve the special use permit without condition 2.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and properly second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, motion. So we are. Public comments. We are now in the public comment phase.
We have 6 public comments this evening.
6, okay, awesome. All right, so Chapter 2, Section 2-2002BB, Rule 28, the public may speak during the public comment section of the agenda. Speaker must complete a comment form prior to the start of the meeting. Subject may include any subject of choice. There will be 3 minutes time limit for each speaker. Speaker that have signed up to speak may give all or part of their time up to 3 minutes to another speaker for a total of 6 minutes of time for the speaker. Speakers may address the council only during the time of the agenda. Speakers must identify themselves and their address prior to speaking. Questions from the speakers may not be addressed during the public speaking section of the agenda. East Point residents will have priority over all other speakers. There will be a total of not more than 60 minutes for public speaking section of this agenda. Speakers may only address the presiding officers. Speakers shall observe all rules of decorum. No debate, no disrespect, nor obscenities shall be tolerated. The presiding officer shall rule any such individual out of order that may fail to comply with the foregoing rules. Madam Clerk, please call your first public speaker.
Up first, we have Mr. Alex Stiles.
Good evening. My name is Alex Stiles. I live at 2973 Duke of Windsor, East Point, Georgia. I come forward today to speak on an issue facing East Point, and that issue is murder. This year, there have been 7 murders in East Point, 2 of which have happened outside a business known as Crush. It is surprising to think that 28% of the murders of East Point this year have taken place in one location. It is shocking to know that these murders took place 9 blocks from the East Point Police Station. It is appalling that the year prior there were 28 murders. I say all of this because now it is bewildering why would we be expected to gather in December to discuss the proposed collective punishment of an entire industry only to, at best, impact a meager 5% of homicides in the city of East Point with the last call ordinance. There is a sickness in East Point that requires our attention. We as citizens, however, should not tolerate political grandstanding to penalize a healthy business community to treat a symptom when an illness of crime plagues the city. I ask for you to vote no on the last call ordinance next month and utilize our time and resources to find an actual treatment that does not harm our community. I thank you for your time.
Up next, we have Melanie Stiles.
Good evening, Council. My name is Melanie Stiles. I'm at 2973 Duke of Windsor in East Point. And I am the owner of East Point's one of the newest alcohol establishments here in the city, the Atlanta Utility Works. And I wanted to just say my piece and let you guys marinate over this the next few weeks before you vote on the decision next month. As I'm still building the business, it is very concerning to me that East Point is attempting to shutter businesses' ability to pour alcohol past a certain time. I believe that limiting the time frame that businesses can serve and sell alcohol is a poor choice for the city, and I am against it. I've spoken with other bar and restaurant owners in the city, and I believe I am not alone in my opinion. Closing early will hurt East Point businesses in an already challenging economic time. This change will impact our ability to generate revenue, which we use to reinvest in the beautification and the growth of the city of East Point. Closing early means lost income to our businesses and lost income and wages to our employees. The change does not just affect the business owner, it affects the employees who, my employees are East Point residents. With the change, employees' hours and tips will be forcibly reduced, and their expected income will be lowered, which impacts their families and the well-beings of their families. Not only will it affect the workers, but it will also put us as a city at a disadvantage, while neighboring cities and townships, as the patrons will take their business elsewhere instead of trying to work around our antiquated time schedules. We need to focus on opening up businesses in East Point. We need to focus on opening them up and not closing them down with restrictions. We need to be pro-commerce in our city, and this move to close bars early is not a business-friendly decision. Just because one establishment has had issues of violence doesn't mean there should be a restriction put on operators citywide. Those who fail to maintain and cultivate a safe environment for their patrons should face the legal ramifications and society scrutiny that they have created. We as a city should also rise above the belligerent and knee-jerk reactions of collective punishment. Let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater. Please, next month, vote no to limiting East Point businesses. Thank you.
Up next, we have Michelle Harvey.
Good evening. My name is Michelle Harvey. I reside at 3310 Abbey Road, and I would like to donate my time to Nicholas LeMay.
So Nicholas is next. Nicholas LeMay. And with the donated time, you'll have 6 minutes to speak.
Good evening, Council. My name is Nick LeMay. I am the owner of Chairs at 2783 Main Street, right across the street from us. I actually do agree that last call time does need to change. I think it's a little goofy that 5 in the morning and closing for a minute and reopening is a bit too late. I think 2 or 3 in the morning is more reasonable, maybe 2 in the morning during the week, 3 in the morning on the weekends. And the reason I bring this up is because I think when you all were talking about the ordinance, there's a lot of talk about X amount of feet from a residence. Now, pretty much every business in East Point is close to a business. The lofts are right behind us, probably 20 or 30 feet. So if we're talking about at 11 p.m. or 12 a.m. last call, that essentially kills us. That 11 a.m. to 2 a.m. that we're open represents about $20,000 or $30,000 in gross income for us. And we do sell a lot of food. I mean, 12 of the 14 hours that we're open, we're serving food. But food margins are slim. They've been made slimmer by the pandemic. We try to keep our prices low for our customers to stay a community neighborhood place to come. And honestly, the other point too is I'm coming up 20 years in the service industry, and most of that was bartending, a lot of late nights, a lot of working on Edgewood Avenue when it was very crazy. And I will say nothing good happens past 2 in the morning. If you're open till 4 in the morning, 5 in the morning, you're not really a restaurant. And to be quite frank, our 2 in the morning, that's why we close at that time. Like, nothing good really happens after that. And we don't really have any issues in our late night hours. They're few and far between. We have private security on the weekends. But I mean, most of our really major issues have happened before 11 p.m. I had one of my staff members assaulted at 11 p.m. I watched my car window get broken into at the parking lot from the patio at 9 p.m. A stray bullet came through the window one day at 5 p.m. while it was still daylight. And we close at midnight on Sunday. We used to do jazz. The guys were loading out at 11:30. They got held up at gunpoint. And the main guy almost got shot. In fact, the person that was holding him up pulled the trigger and it clicked and it jammed. So there was almost a shooting and a death at 11:30. And I think that kind of makes the point that we're not going to resolve major crime by limiting, but I do get that you don't want nightclubs. We all saw what happened with U-Bar a long time ago. Got rid of the nightclub designation. It's just restaurants. You can only be a restaurant. And if that's the case, then shorten the last call. Allow your restaurants the few hours to get that good margin liquor to make up for the slim margin in food. And even at the end of the day, we're still talking about us having single-digit margins at the end of the year. And that's why I say we'd be done. Yeah, and I mean, the other thing I think is to consider is to have the language in the ordinance, not just say residential, but to specify, like I said, we have the lofts. Those are zone C3. They're talking about crush. There's houses behind it, detached houses, R1, R1A. So I think that distinction is important because a C3 condo, or sorry, CR condo in a downtown area, it's a little bit different than maybe, say, a detached home with family, children, what have you. And yeah, I think I think that's something. I think that's all I've got, except for the only other idea that I had is that if you do want only restaurants or restaurant bars, first of all, doing an 11 to 12 closes, you're not going to have any. Or you're not going to have any that serve alcohol, at least. If you're going to do that, then maybe say that the restaurant has to serve food up until a certain hour. Like you can't just serve alcohol for 8 hours. It's like, oh yeah, we're a restaurant, we serve food until 3. So that sort of thing is something to consider. That might help, help the issue a little bit. And the thing is I'm going to try to do the right thing. And even if we can't stay open, I'm going to abide by the law or the ordinance, always. These guys, they're already pushing something that's there that no one else really did. We could have, but we didn't because no one wants the trouble. So if you do force the ordinance, then those kinds of people are just going to make it a private club with membership cards and then stay open as late as they want anyway. They're just going to keep doing the wrong thing. So I guess to conclude on that is 2, 3 in the morning, that's a good compromise. And we would love to stay open and stay here. Thank you.
Up next, we have Isaiah Tomlin.
Isaiah Thomas.
And lastly, Ahmed Hadia. Nope.
He also left.
Okay, got it. Those are all the public comments we have this evening.
Thank you. Can I get a motion to close the public comments?
May I make the motion that we close the public comments?
All those in favor? All those opposed? All right, thank you. Consent, can I get a motion to approve the consent item agenda?
Madam Mayor, I make the motion that we approve the consent item agenda.
All right, it's been properly second. All those in favor? All those opposed? All right, so move. All right, so we are down to number 22.
Madam Mayor, I make the motion that we open well, I'm just running on fumes today.
I know.
That we have, we need to waive the first reading? Okay, thank you. I can start with that. Madam Mayor, I make the motion that we waive the first reading.
It's been moved and properly second that we waive the first reading. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? All right, so do we need to have a discussion on this one, or we're just ready to vote?
We can make the motion that, Madam Mayor, I make the motion that we pass the budget amendment I make the motion that we pass the FY 2024 budget amendment number 1.
Okay. Do we have a second? Second.
Discussion.
Okay. I recognize Councilwoman Bailey.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. There were a lot of questions regarding the budget amendment concerning the robocalls. Would it be appropriate at this time to have those questions addressed?
Well, is this germane to the budget amendment, and you want to state your concerns, or yes, you can. We're in for discussion.
Questions about the robocalls. We had a lot of questions about that in the last meeting.
Oh, robocall. Okay, so go ahead. Go ahead, Councilwoman Bailey.
The amount was $15,000, and I would like to know in terms of who placed those, what they were for, and our process for making that request. If we have a budget for robocalls, what is it? How do we access it? And I just want to know more information about it. I do think it's a good idea to have some format to notify residents about what's going on. And robocalls might be one avenue to do that. It may be putting notices in the bill. So I just want to know more information. I'm, of course, new on council. I would like to know more information about how do you access that to get the word out to residents, and who did those?
So I'm going to address the city manager. You would like to have the finance director come in?
Yes, Madam Mayor Pro Tem, I'll have Shannon Golden, who'll step up and give a brief overview of this particular item and also answer the questions for Councilmember Bailey as well. Go ahead, Shannon.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and City Council. Can you hear me? Sorry. Okay, Councilmember Bailey, could you repeat the question for me, please?
Yes, at the previous meeting in our work session, we talked about, you gave a great presentation about some figures, and one was related to council, and it was an amount for like $15,000 for robocalls. And I just wanted more information about that, who placed those calls and our budget for it, just so we're just more transparent about that going forward. I am not opposed to any avenue to inform our residents, and that might be one avenue that we choose to do, as well as mailers, as well as putting it in their bills. I just would like more information about that.
Absolutely. So in regards to the robocalls, that item was removed from the budget amendment. Okay, but as it relates to the robocalls itself, council has the opportunity in their budget from other professional fees to engage in robocalls to citizens. For the most part, we have one vendor in Money Services that is used, and so with the FY24 robocalls, we had robocalls that go out for the Shred Day for seniors. They informed about the tablet giveaway and the food distribution.
So those three items is what the $15,000 was for the robocalls?
No, ma'am. That was a recommendation for robocalls. I'm sorry, for the, other professional fees as it relates to robocalls. But in this case, these are actual calls that were made during the fiscal year.
So again, what were those calls? What was it regarding for $15,000, and who placed and who made that request?
There was no calls for $15,000. It was just a budget amendment recommendation to be added into the budget. But I think council decided on to remove it, and it was removed.
Thank you.
Councilmember, Mr. Cook.
Just for a point of clarity, I don't think we waived the first reading, but we didn't announce the total budget adjustment amount in the motion for the record. Okay?
Yes.
It's right with our document. Let's say go ahead and do it.
Okay. We're amending the FY24 adopted budget in the amount of $210,780,524. That's an increase of $19,383,922. Our adopted budget was $191,396,602.
Cook, are you still in? Thank you, Mr. Thank you, Mr. Cook. Mr. Councilmember Butler.
Thank you so much for being here. So Amani Services is the person that is the contracted vendor for the robocalls.
That's correct.
Do we have a total amount of how much was spent in robocalls year to date and in the previous fiscal year?
For FY24, it amounted to $5,390. For FY23, we had to dig that amount out. So I don't have that total available for tonight.
Who made the $5,000 calls?
Say that again, sir.
Who made the phone calls for $5,090?
I don't have that information in front of me. It's just when I look at it from when I gather the information from our AP system, it just provides who the vendor is.
Now, let me be real plain. You were told to have the information tonight.
Why don't you have the information? You were told. So why don't you have the information?
As it relates to the information that was requested, it was for FY '24, correct?
No, you were told to have the FY '24 budget year to date and the previous year. You were also told in the last meeting to tell us who made the robocalls and how much was spent. So let me just be plain. This is why the residents are upset. When we come up here and we give you instructions as to what you should be prepared for, you're not prepared, then they come and look at us. I'm very disappointed, and you guys were told to do this. And not to have the answers is not being transparent, and it's hiding something, and it's a cover-up over $15,000.
Mr. Cook, are you in?
Yes.
And I'll come to you, Councilwoman Cummings. Next.
I'm going to approach this issue slightly different, and city manager yell in when you think it's necessary. But the majority of the robocalls that are made by the city that is charged to the various council accounts are the same robocalls we all get. And if I'm incorrect, please say so. And that these calls basically relate to the free food that's being delivered, that's done, what is it, every Tuesday, every Wednesday? I mean, we've been doing this for so long, when I see 270, I know it's a robocall and the basically know what the message is. Now, outside of that small service that we're doing, what other robocalls exist? I don't think any other exist, other than the ones that are announcing the free food giveaway. City manager, am I correct or incorrect?
Right. Actually, that's why Shannon has the information, because we talked about that earlier in terms of what the calls are for, the amount of the calls. And so what Councilor Butler is saying is accurate. So you have that information. Don't you have that information? We talked about that before.
Yes, sir, City Manager. As it relates to those calls and the purpose of those calls for FY '24 year to date, here again, those categories are food distribution, district information, identification for voters. It was for the tablet giveaway and voting information. There was also one for Shred Dead for the seniors. There was one for the Halloween festival and senior home cleanup.
And Shannon, you have the amounts.
Yeah, the average amount is about, per call is about $898. So the total year to date we're looking at is $5,391 rounded.
And we're addressing how many folks when we make a robocall on average?
It's only, we only have 6 of these calls
How
year to
many?
date. 6.
No, not the series of calls. When we make one robocall episode, we are addressing roughly how many citizens when we do that? What's that number?
About 30, 35. It's all citizens. About 35,000.
35,000 people when we make the robocall. Okay, we finally getting somewhere. And it's not the different episodes that are being made, it's how many people you're trying to reach when you make the episode. And we're not making robocalls to say, come to Councilman Cook's house on Saturday for a party. They're all based on some type of service activity for all of our citizens that we're trying to reach in a short period of time. And basically, we don't have another tool that we're using that is as effective. I think we've tried to do it through emails. You're not going to reach everybody when you do that. In fact, we've done so many robocalls, you're probably not reaching as many people today as you were the first time you started, except for that group that depends on robocalls. Am I leaving anything out, City Manager?
No, you pretty pretty much on ahead. Also, Shannon, for what you had to do to collect for last year, because that was another assignment you had. What's the process? Tell them what you have to get. Is it determined just what you did for this year? What was the process you had to determine to get the number that Council Butler was referring to? Because that's what you.
So with this process, I mean, we have to go through all of the related account information for like, you may have other professional fees. It may be in another account category. So we have to search for these information. So as it relates to FY23, it just takes a little time for us to get the information available.
Madam Mayor Pro Tem, may I add another point? I yield if someone really wants to knock me off the stage, but I want to bring up one additional point because I know I have been asked to volunteer to do this. We try to keep that whole process within a reasonable budget and within a reasonable time period. But I do know we've had certain issues or certain times of the year where we have to make more robocalls within a short period of time than normal. To the point we know we're going to spend more money, to the point that I have been personally asked by a person who needs to conduct these robocalls, would I be willing to part with some of the money that's assigned me in my account to help cover the cost? Now, maybe no one else knows about that because they never get asked. But I have been asked, and not very frequently, maybe once or twice a year. Have we covered everything right now? Is everybody kind of happy with the response, or is there still an issue out there that needs to be addressed?
Thank you, Mr. Cook. Councilwoman, comments, and then I'll come back to Councilwoman Bailey.
All right. Thank you, Madam Mayor Pro Tem. Okay, so I just want to make sure I understand. $800 gets you reach about 35,000 people. How often does that call go out? Is that just a one-time deal?
I can't hear
That's
you.
okay. So $800 reaches about 35 residents. How many, is that just a one-time deal that they shoot that out, that they'll send that out one time, or is it twice a week or once a week, or it's just one time, $800, 35,000 people?
I wouldn't have that information as regards to like the frequency of
Yeah,
the calls.
frequency.
But I just know that from the invoice is $898. I don't know how often they do it.
Okay, so we
But-
don't know how often those calls go out. And
No.
what's the process of, and you know, as far as who approves it, what's the process? So let's just say, I want to let everybody know about the redistricting, you know, just how everybody, the new neighborhoods are set up. I go in, I say, we get this person, they're going to do the robocalls. Does it, I mean, who signs off on it, or who makes the suggestion or the approval? Who's the one who manages this?
Say it again,
Who manages the process when it comes to these robocalls? Or just anybody submit it? So-
Yeah, it's the initiator, I guess, where they have a message. They use the vendor, and between that initiator, whoever that is, and the vendor, they make that call. Make the message for the call.
Okay. So I think we have it's muddy. I think with the process, I think we need to have an official process in place for robocalls, for if it's for something collected for the city, or if it's for an individual that does it, and specify if it's supposed to be within our individual council members' budget, or is it just a pot and everybody goes into that pot? I don't understand. I ended up leaving out early, but I hear $15,000. A lot of people got a lot to say about it. So we're just trying to get some clarity on it. And I think even just by answering these questions, we're still kind of foggy on how this process is supposed to play out. I mean, I don't know who, somebody sends an invoice, somebody signs off on it, approves it. It's no one in particular. You can't give me a specific person. And I think that's one of the things that, you know, kind of troubles the community, the residents, when they come to this, because we don't have, there should be certain policies and procedures in place for doing certain things, and a basic thing. I mean, because we started off, you're saying it's $5,000, roughly what you spent before, but then it was an ask for $15,000. So I'm lost. And I just want to try and make sure that, you know, we just kind of have a better understanding, so we'll know going forward just what the process is. Because right now, it doesn't appear to be, it is a process. I don't quite understand it, but I do know it's something that we have going on. So I think we need to put a concrete process in place to even do this, and then also make sure that we understand where this money comes from.
Absolutely.
I yield.
Councilmember Bailey.
Thank you, Madam Mayor Pro Tem. My question is also related to standard operating procedures. And I'm not opposed to letting residents know what's going on in the city. Some residents may prefer the robocall, some may prefer mailing. Any way that we can communicate to residents, I think that's great. Just having a process and a procedure about doing it. And maybe it should come from the city and not necessarily a particular council person if it's for all residents. And then secondly, having a way for residents to opt in or opt out of it. That might save money if some residents may not want to receive it, that communication. I'm not really sure. I do want to say that I've never made a robocall to communicate anything going on. I think it's not a bad idea. I just have never utilized those funds. So thank you for your information that you shared.
Thank you.
Councilmember Robertson.
Yeah, basically in my other capacity in the county government, usually in cases like this, it's in the communications department. So most calls like that are fed to communications, or either the spokesperson of the city makes those calls. I don't know what the correct procedure is, but that's something that might want to be looked at too, because if there's an issue that's some council members have, that might be a way to just clear it up. That's all I basically have, but I know there are some best practices in other cities to do that, so there won't be no conflict. In reference to, say, what we call the council communication budget, that's a whole different topic, I would think. But in reference to, you're saying the robocalls, if there is an issue, that should be something should be considered to be done with communications department. And I yield. That's just a thought, thinking out loud. I yield.
Councilmember Butler.
Madam Mayor Pro Tem, if you don't have any remarks, I'm going to call for the question if you don't have anything. You got anything?
I think this may need to go back to a work session. I think because
Well,
Finance Director said that there's some information that he could not bring to the table tonight, and I don't think all of your questions were answered.
I
Is
would
that
like to
correct?
put it on as a presentation for the next meeting.
I think so. Madam City Clerk, can you add that to the presentation for our next meeting? And I think that's December, the first meeting in December the 4th.
Madam Mayor Pro Tem, I call for the question. And I'll
Is-
repeat the
Please, with the amount.
dollar amount.
Dollar amount.
Madam Mayor Pro Tem, I ask for a motion that we pass the 2024 Budget Amendment Number 1 with the amended budget to be $210 million.
It's been moving properly second. All those in favor? All those opposed? All right, motion passed. All right, so, thank you. Thank you. Then we waive so I'd like to make is there another motion? So did we adopt a ordinance for tonight? We waive the First Amendment. Let's go on to the next, number 24.
Madam Mayor, I will ask that we
No, I'm
waive.
sorry, number 23. It's 23, I apologize.
Madam Mayor, I ask that we waive the first reading for the ordinance granting a special use permit for a container storage facility located at 1492 Central Avenue.
Is there a second? It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor? All those opposed? Okay.
Madam
Motion.
Mayor, I make a motion that we open the floor for discussion and possible action on the special use permit number 23.
Is there a second? All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion passed.
Good evening again. In reference to item number 2 on the agenda, property located at 1492 Central Avenue, case known as 2023 3U-004-03. It's special use permit. The applicant is Travis Bingham. Properties located is in a zoning district of I-1, which is our light industrial. The request is for a special use permit for a storage business, which will include storage crates, roll-off container yard, storage yard. Here's a site plan and photos from the north and the east. The current zoning as stated is I-1. Actually, the zoning is actually I-2, which is our heavy industrial. The future land use on the property is our town center sub area 3. Staff recommendation is to deny. The Planning Commission recommended approval with 8 conditions. The condition number 1, no container to be stored within the area of the front yard of the current building to the street. Condition number 2, no container to be stored within 50 feet behind the screen entrance gate. Condition number 3, screen fence shall be a maximum of 8 feet. Condition number 4, reestablish sidewalk along property frontage. Condition number 5, all outside storage shall be fenced and located within the rear or the side yards. Condition number 6, parking must be repaved, striped prior to obtaining a business license. Condition number 7, no crates or pods shall be stacked exceeding the height of the screen fence on site. And the last condition, number 8, all unloading and loading of storage units shall be conducted. Shall be conducted during regular business hours of 4 a.m. to 7 p.m.
Question.
Thank you. I'll open up for discussion, Mr. Councilmember Cook.
Thank you. You read, okay, now you've changed it. Because if I'm not mistaken, number 3 a few seconds ago had 6 feet. Now you read 8 feet.
Correct.
That
The
wasn't what
correct
we were looking
reading
at.
is 8 feet.
Say again?
It's 8 feet.
Okay, now 6 feet is back up on the screen again.
Right.
Okay. Pass the asterisks.
Thank you, Mr. Cook. King, aye. Councilwoman Bailey.
Thank you, Madam Pro Tem. Could you go back to the slide where I thought I saw denial, and I wanted to read that. Let's see this.
So, see, this is city attorney, that building, the structure of the building, even though they're going to be using the outside structure with the dumpsters, we talked about this in work session in reference to you dealing with the owners in reference to the business license. How are we going to separate this out? Because that property is not licensed to carry a business. So can you kind of expand on this one?
This is on the Willingham project.
Yes, sir.
With the request to have a retail operation inside of it.
I think this gentleman he's not gonna have he has an office. The red dumpster company is just gonna have an office space inside. And I think that building is over 30,000 square feet. And so I don't think they're gonna occupy the entire building, but part of that building, they will have an office space in, I guess, for invoices and tracking records or whatever. But I think the remaining amount of that building, I think you have the owner of the building in court. And so based on what they have on the screen, no business license, no previous CO property, how are we going to work through this process if we grant him an opportunity to do business here?
Yes, ma'am. So each business that occupies a structure, even if they're doing different things but occupying the same place, have to obtain a separate certificate of occupancy and business license. So to your point, they could be granted the opportunity to get one, but they would be required to, and still would need to get one if they're going to do business in the city. You are correct that they are before the courts on that very item. And I believe that if I'm not mistaken, the case was reset for them to come into compliance. so that it was reset for them to actually get that certificate of occupancy and business license by the court.
Thank you, Madam Pro Tem. My question, or maybe even concern, is like just the safety of that street. It's a lot of car industries there, and I'm a little concerned about that because in terms of where this facility is located in reference to the cars, it's a lot of mechanic shops, and just, the traffic going up and down that street, that is a little concerning in terms of safety for this business being there. I don't know if that weighs into what you all consider.
So, Ms. Smith, go back to the other slide where we addressed that issue about the hours of operation and about the 8-foot fence. And can you go back to that screen? Now, this is a little confusing. We might not want to go back to that one at all. All right, so right there, we're gonna hold it. Don't go back no more. We're gonna hold this one. It says we're gonna have a wooden foot fence 8 feet high, and the operations, number 8 is a concern for us. Did he not go back to the owner because of the work hours from 4:30 a.m. to 7 p.m.?
These are the conditions that he came up with after speaking with the owner. He sent these conditions to us this afternoon.
Now, and he might want to come to the podium and speak on that because we kind of talked about that in length on the work session to give us some little clarity on that one.
Sure. And if I may, can I address the certificate of occupancy as well? And the thing that
Yes,
Attorney Weems addressed. So number one, Andre Washington, counsel for Redbox Plus. My address is 1201 West Peachtree Street, Northwest Suite 3250. To begin with the certificate of occupancy, one of the big issues of why we were here is that we entered into a lease and we immediately went to go get a business license and a certificate of occupancy and learned that we were not able to get one because the property's entitlements were incorrect or were not in line. After that time, the business continued to kind of function in good faith, thinking that they were going through the process, and later was cited for not having a CO or a certificate of occupancy. So part of the reason why we're here is beginning this process. I think we applied first in I guess February or March when we began this process. So it's taken that long to get to this point of tonight of actually having a vote. And at all times relevant, we have operated to try to bring the property in compliance, both with the city's code and to go through the process. And as Attorney Williams mentioned, we are happy to do whatever to resolve that. Setting that aside, when it came to hours of operation, if I remember correctly, when you talked, the question was the warning sounds and the noises related to the warning sounds. So when I spoke to the owner today, the warning signals are designed to alert people within the area, but they're not blaring loud signals that can travel for miles and miles. That's not the type of trucks we have. They're just essentially DOT required, like literally federal requirements to make sure that they're safe. And hours of operation, our 4:30 a.m. beginning early hours are just doing safety checks, walking around the trucks, making sure the trucks are in compliance, making sure that they are in place, and being deployed to work sites before the start of the workday. That's why we have to have them there earlier, because if you have dumpster containers that are going to construction sites and construction sites begin to ramp up around 6 or 7 o'clock, you want to have your trucks already loaded and in place. And we load the night before most often. So the loading happens the night before, the truck's already parked with the containers on there that are being deployed. And then they essentially turn on, warm up the trucks, do their checks, do their compliance checks, and then they're off to their site. So I know that 4:30 in the morning sounds alarming, as if we're going to be dumping trucks in that morning, but that's not what's happening. That's really just essentially, imagine if you have U-Haul trucks that are leaving the facility that early in the morning. That is what's happening. Not, someone's come from a site at 3 a.m. and they're dumping trucks at 4:30 in the morning. In terms of safety, to date, we haven't heard any citations for any issues related to safety. We haven't had any complaints or heard anything from any members of the community. I don't know, and I can't say definitively that we have had any particular violations. In fact, I can say we have not had any violations when it comes to someone complaining or there being safety concerns or traffic concerns. So With that, I'm happy to answer any other kind of nuanced questions.
I do. These are roll-off trucks. These are diesel trucks, roll-off trucks.
I don't know if they're diesel, but I know that they're essentially dump trucks. I have a photo of the
I
vehicles.
know what they look like, roll-off trucks. Now, you're saying that the standard of operation is that they load these dumpsters up the day before, and then all they're doing is doing safety checks, walking around, and then getting ready to pull off at 4:30 or 5:30 in the morning after that. Is that what you're saying?
So mostly, yes. So the lion's share, most often, these trucks are already in place and already the containers are already on there the night before, or they're loaded up onto the truck, but they're not necessarily depositing containers that morning. If you think about it, you know, in the morning, the containers are either loaded on the trucks or are already on the trucks, and then at night they're rolled off for storage at night. But it is not an operation where in the morning there's a bunch of business, like there's a bunch of downloading or uploading in the morning.
Okay, so, all right, so city attorney, if we pass this ordinance tonight to allow him to have that, will he be able to do any business? Because if the building has not passed to have a CO or is able to get a business license, will he still be delayed?
He's still, well, legally, he's not supposed to do business. However, he's not stopped in any way from doing business. However, if he is still caught doing business, the ordinance says that he could receive a maximum fine amount of up to $1,000 per day for each day of the violation and up to 6 months in jail. It would just be a matter of the officer, which is what they likely are doing, is taking pictures every day of whatever they're doing over there at the site and presenting that to the court on the day of court to determine whether or not there should be additional penalties.
So, Councilmember Robinson?
Thank you, Madam Mayor Pro Tem. I had a question last week, and I think it was about the environment.
Yep.
The hazardous waste from the red box. What are your cleaning procedures, and are you cleaning them on site? That was my question that I don't see addressed here, but that's very problematic once we start cleaning out those trucks and where that waste goes to as it gets into our streams and into our environment. So that's my concern. As we move forward with this, that's something that I like to support. But what are the environmental concerns? This is the third time I'm asking this question. I yield.
Are there any more council members that want to chime in?
Madam Mayor Pro Tem, if it pleases the council and the mayor, we can ask the client if he would defer it since there are more questions, if that pleases the council.
Yes, but the applicants have to,
I am happy to request a deferral, and to Councilmember Robertson, I got an answer about cleaning off site, but I want to make sure that I'm actually getting you a lot more detailed answer. So with that time, I'm happy to provide you an answer in writing or meet with you separately to address that question. And then on the note of business operation, again, our goal here is and has been to get this SUP and then bring the property in compliance as is necessary. So with that, I respectfully will request a deferment to whatever available time the council deems fit.
City Attorney, if we defer this for another 2 weeks or 30 days, or probably to the last city council member in December, would that be appropriate for the council?
I think that's really procedural from planning and community development. I don't think that there's anything legally wrong with it. I will ask Ms. Smith to speak to whatever their practice has been on that.
You can defer to the next council meeting.
All right, so we're going to put it on the December 4th council meeting, or probably take it to a work session, so he'll give an opportunity to answer some of the questions and to cure some of the defects associated with the business. Would you like it for the last Monday in December? I mean, the third Monday in December? Would that be, in that way you can give you an opportunity to cure the defects?
That would be fine. And if I may, I know I need to answer Councilman Roberts' questions about the environment, but specifically, what additional questions would you like additional context about hours of operation? What additional context would you like me to clear up? I want to be sure about that.
Right, and those are the ones, the CO, you need a CO and you need to be able to, once you get the CO, then we know that you can get a business permit, right?
And I'm happy to, I've offered to meet with council to let him know what it is that he's
Yes.
missing.
And just a note on the CO, as I understand it, you have to have the
special
entitlements in
use permit.
place first before you get the CO. So that's what I have been essentially trying to say, is that we applied in February for the SUP, have gone through this process up into November. So once we get approval from you guys, then we can go and get the proper CO and certificate, obviously. But until that point, we will always be out of compliance.
All right, so, but the owner of the building, he doesn't need that. The owner of the building has to have a CO. And so my advice to you is to make sure that you're working closely with the owner to get the CO so that everything else, I think that is I think that's the proper way of doing it. Right now, even if we gave you permission, then you still would not be able to operate because nobody has a CO in the building. And so I think you guys need to be working extremely close with the owner to get that properly passed. And then all of those other conditions, I think that could be met and the council will be ready to move on it. Okay? Ms. Smith, is that okay with you?
Yes.
All right. All right. So if.
No, I got one.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Is it
Mr.
going to work session or is it going to the
Yes, let's
first
put it on the
meeting in
work session
December?
first and then we'll go to the next council meeting. Councilmember Cook.
Since I'm low fruit on this tree, I want to just make this request because it's not happening in my backyard, but it is happening in my city. Between the two attorneys that are in the room and the director, I'm pleading that everyone work together to make sure every issue that could possibly come up has come up and been discussed before the applicant is in front of us again. Because it's almost like reading a novel up here. Every appearance is a different chapter of events we have to deal with. And it's getting old. You know, and I wish the applicant the best, but we can't make any shortcuts with this too. So I'm depending on those who are in control to make sure all of the legitimate circumstances and all of the logical questions have been addressed, so that the next time the applicant is here, he knows whether or not he's going to be able to eat dinner or go home hungry. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
All right, thank you. All right, moving to the next item, number 24. Can I get a motion?
Madam Pro Tem, I make a motion.
To waive the first reading.
To waive the first reading.
Can I get a second? It's been moving properly second. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion passed. Can I get a motion to adopt the ordinance? Can I get a motion?
I make a motion to
Adopt the ordinance.
discuss or adopt the ordinance to amend the official zoning map of East Point, Georgia, for property located at 1457 West Cornhill Junior Drive, Mile 1, Light Residential Zoning District to RT Residential Townhome District.
Can I get a second? Is there any discussion? Discussion. Councilmember Butler.
First of all, the motion is to open the floor for discussion, correct? Or is it for a vote? Yes, Madam City Kim, would you like to go through go through the presentation, please?
Thank you, Councilman Butler. In reference to this item, property located at 1457 Gus Thornhill Junior Drive, known as case number 2023 RZ-001-07. This case is a rezoning. The applicant is Patrick Pill Jr. The zoning is currently light industrial and it has a Cleveland overlay district classification. The applicant is requesting to rezone 0.56 plus or minus acres of land from I-1, which is our light industrial district, to RT, our residential townhome district, to construct 7 new attached townhomes. Again, the property is located in our I-1 Light Industrial Zoning District with a Cleveland Avenue overlay. The future land use map is for redevelopment neighborhood. There's a survey of the property. There's a site plan of the proposal. And here are renderings, elevations of the proposal. Staff recommended approval with conditions. Planning Commission also recommended approval with 4 conditions. The first condition, the architectural facade and siding must be aesthetically compatible with the materials of the neighborhood, residential neighborhoods, including modern style houses found in East Washington community. The building design must comply with the Cleveland Avenue overlay. Condition number 2, the detailed tree landscaping plan shall be submitted for approval by Planning and Zoning Division and or assigned arborist. Condition number 3, sidewalks to be provided fronting all buildable lots. And condition number 4, no more than 7 buildable lots. That's the end of our presentation.
Thank you. Mr. Peel has met with the community of East Washington, and they were all in favor of this project. The only thing that I think council had a concern with was a egress and ingress way to come in and out the building, and not just that one street. And I know this is just for the zoning. Will you have to come back in front of council for the rest? Because we would like to see if, and I think the council agreed to work with the city to make sure that they have maybe an ingress and outgress coming in on Irene Kidd and Gaston Hill, so that if the need of emergency vehicles or trash reciprocal could get through that area. And to have an exit coming around on the side, going over to Irene Kidd to work with that. And that's the only thing. So it's council call for the vote. Is there any other thing, Ms. Smith?
Is that in the form of a condition, or are
That's
you leaving it to site development, to our technical review committee?
Right, that's exactly right.
Okay.
For your site development.
Okay.
Madam Pro Tem, I call for the question to approve as stated by Kim and the recommendations of Planning Commission recommendation.
Can I get a second? Okay, so all those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? All right, motion passed. All
Thank
right.
you.
Number 25.
I make a motion to waive the first reading. Oh. Well, I thought it was right under there. Is that not? Madam Pro Tem, I make a motion for possible action and discussion, council review and approval of emergency procurement services for planning and community development department, permitting support services. I can't see that.
Second.
Okay.
And plan review.
That's great.
CBO and inspections.
All right, great. It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries, and the floor is now open for discussion. Mr. City Manager?
Thank you, Madam Mayor Pro Tem and council members. This is an item where we have placed this as one of our action items for the Planning and Community Development Department. They're looking to enhance their permitting, inspections, and plan review process. They have gone through the proper vetting through our city attorney, who has reviewed the proposed agreement for what's before you tonight. And there's been some discussion with the Safe Bill, which will be an onboarding process, which will take place after the holiday week. So we're excited about this opportunity to bring them on board. They'll be coming before you once they get here and get them onboarded to meet with you and kind of hear what they're looking to do. And it includes some of the action items that I know Councilmember Bailey had discussed in our updates. And so I just want to thank her and all of you all for allowing us to have this before you. And so it's here tonight for your consideration. And the Director, Kimberly Smith, is here to answer any questions, Madam Mayor Pro Tem, you and the council members may have.
All right, so do we have any council members chiming in? Mr. Councilmember Cook?
Just basically, how much is this going to cost us, if anything, and when did you get started?
We put aside $200,000 in our budget. They're going to be working on an as-needed basis. So it's really hard to give you a ballpark figure on exactly how much it's going to cost, but we did put aside $200,000 in the budget for the onboarding accommodations and fees.
Thank you, Madam Pro Tem. Thank you for that information. Is the plan for bringing on this company is to increase like the efficiency of the inspection process?
Absolutely. It's to support our plan review process, our inspection team, as well as our chief building official role.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Councilmember Robinson.
Yeah, sounds like good news. Now, you mentioned the inspection process. I'm under the impression that right now you can have an independent inspector for 1, 2, but the final inspection has to go through staff. Will this be considered staff for a final inspection to use sometimes?
The chief building official is the official sign-off for certificate of occupancy and the building finals. And this particular role is going to be accommodating that role, that chief building official role.
Okay, thank you. I yield.
Mr. City Manager, is there an action item for us from the council tonight in reference to this item?
Yes, Madam Mayor Pro Tem, there's the agreement that is before you for your consideration. And that will be on an as-needed basis. I'm happy to say the amendment did include $200,000 that Director Smith had talked about. So it includes the contract for your review and approval tonight, Madam Mayor Pro Tem.
All right, so we're going to approve the contract in the amount of how much?
We set aside $200,000.
Okay.
We're not exactly sure to put a dollar figure on how much it's going to be because we're onboarding them on an as-needed basis.
All right, so should we say not to exceed 200,000?
Yes, Madam Mayor Pro Tem, I was going to say not to exceed that amount. And then once we get a gauge of what their services will be, because on an as-needed basis, we'll come back before you with an update. But 200,000 we felt was a safe number to start out with. They'll be doing no more than maybe 4 hours per day starting out, but they'll be retrofitted once we see what our deadlines, our timeline is, and we'll be come back for you. But I would say not to exceed 200,000, then we'll come back before you once we get a better idea if they're needed beyond that.
Thank you. Is there a motion on the floor?
Madam Mayor Pro Tem, I make the motion that we approve the ordinance.
All right, we'll make, the motion has.
It's a contract.
It's a contract for
I approve the contract.
not to exceed $200,000 for the record. It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. All right, next is number 26. Can I get a motion?
Madam Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes. Okay.
Yes, waive the first reading, yes.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Is there another motion on this item?
Yes, Madam Mayor Pro Tem.
Mhm.
I'd like to make a motion to open the floor for discussion and possible action on an ordinance amending the City of East Point's Georgia Code of Ordinance to require all gas stations, liquor stores, convenience stores, and other high-risk businesses with liquor license or other nuisance issues to install video surveillance system.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, so moved. Okay. Let me see. Mr. Councilmember Butler, and then Councilmember comments, and then Mr. Cook.
Okay, Councilwoman Cummins, with this particular ordinance, it does not require that they have cameras at every pump, correct?
That is correct, but I am actually looking at here, and if we go to section B, section 3, I'm sorry. Section 3, subsection B, I do see that it's here. I know we had, the verbiage should have been changed. It's not necessarily requiring them to have a camera at each pump, but just dedicated that the camera shows all of the pumps. They don't have to put one on every pump. And I see that the verbiage here saying that they wanted to have at least no less than one camera dedicated to each pump. So we're going to need to make a correction on here. We just wanted to make sure that the camera system that they do have installed does give you a clear view of all the pumps. And I know there were questions with other cities being possibly being in some sort of violation. The only thing that we are requesting here is that they hold their footage for 60 days. Number one, and then also the second requirement also was that once that they have that footage available within 72 hours that PD requested. But if it's something that's going to be a major incident that takes place, that they would have it readily available.
So, Madam City Clerk, were you able to capture the changes that we're about to add to this ordinance?
I did hear the ones about the verbiage. needing to
Can
be
you hear
changed.
her? Can you hear her?
Oh, can y'all hear me?
I can
Sorry.
hear you now.
Okay, sorry. I heard where you said it needs to be changed about the camera view at each pump to just be able to view all pumps, but I
Clear
did not
view.
hear the second part.
Clear view of all the pumps. So
Okay.
they don't necessarily have to have a camera on every pump,
Mhm.
but we are requiring that they have that the camera system gives us a clear view of every pump that is on the property.
Got it. And then after that,
And everything else is okay, but we have 7 and 8 that are on the last page. Yes, that's the 60 days. That is in the ordinance, and the one for 72 hours, that's indicated in here as well. So we're good with those.
okay.
So the only change that we have is that the clear view of the camera for all pumps, not necessarily they have to have one on every pump.
So, Mr. Councilmember,
I have a question just on that one topic, and it's the wording. Would having a camera on each bay of pumps be better or more accurate than saying at least a camera on all of the pumps? Because you reach, depending on how large the lot is,
right,
that one camera might be worthless for the pump that's furthest away. Yet, a compromise would be if you had 3 sections and each section had pumps on each side, maybe a total of 4 or 6. Most cases might be just 4, and one camera for 4
for each one of the pump
pumps.
stations.
And you got 2 bays of 4. You accomplish even more than just saying one camera on the whole lot, unless it's a small lot.
Well, we don't have any like huge gas stations here in the city, but that does make sense, and it does make it more distinct. So I understand that. So we could possibly change the verbiage on that. This would actually be a good question for the city attorney.
it's in section 3. If you read section 3, I think it covers it here.
Yeah, I think it's meeting me halfway, but my real point here is, yes, I can see not maximizing cameras on every pump.
Right.
But at the same time, we don't want to cheat the effectiveness of still being able to have close view on every pump. And that's why I said, instead of one camera looking at 8 of 12,
right,
limit it to each bay, and you still have multiple counts. Keep in mind, we're only doing this on the service stations that are also making the liquor sip.
That's
Missile.
correct. That's correct. So I will ask the city attorney for clarification on that. So we were talking about the requirement for the cameras at each pump. So I thought we had changed the verbiage that it should just be that the camera give us a clear view of every pump. But what Councilmember Cook is stating, that maybe if they did the cameras at each bay, as opposed to them saying one camera and it's supposed to give us a view of all of the pumps that are on site. I know, but we really don't have large gas stations, because I know sometimes you'll have them where there's the store that's in the middle and you have pumps on the left and the right side. So in that case, you would need 2 cameras. And I guess just to make it as plain as we possibly could, as we possibly can.
So let me be clear. You're on minimum standards on letter B, right?
Yes.
And the one that you're on is
Number 3.
Number 3, all
Yes.
BSS are required to have no less than 1 camera dedicated to each one. So you want to change that to, or actually technically, I guess you want to take it out, or you want to just change it?
But what we want to do is we want to provide verbiage in there that states that we need to have the camera system that you have. It needs to give us a clear view of every pump that you have on site. So what Councilmember Cook is saying that if, let's just say they have 8 pumps and the camera is there at the first pump, we may not get a clear enough view at the 8th pump that's down on the other end. So he was suggesting maybe something to say 1 on each bay, but I would think that it would just infer that if you say you have 1 camera, we just need a clear view of all of your pumps. But I think he's just saying just to kind of, not necessarily dummy it down, but to dummy it down to make it, completely understandable that we're just talking about, we need to make sure that we need to have a clear view of every pump that you do have on your property.
That's section B3, right?
Yes, B3.
Thank you. I'll make that change.
Okay. And so, Councilwoman Bailey?
Thank you, Madam Pro Tem. My question is about number 1. Did you intend to say 1 dedicated camera for each register or checkout? Was that your intention?
Excuse me, repeat your question. I'm sorry.
Did you intend to require 1 camera dedicated to each register or checkout stand, as opposed to I don't know if maybe that's required, but if you could, the camera's there and you
Well,
can
that
capture.
checkout stand that they have, they normally hit, when we think of all the convenience stores that we have in East Point, that checkout stand, it's only 1 register that's going to be there. But if the checkout stand is where all of the registers are, so we're just saying it was included in there, the register and the checkout stand, because it's all in that one area.
Right, but it says 1 camera dedicated to each register. So I don't know if that's necessary, but I could be wrong. If you have a camera there that's capturing, if both the registers are near each other, would you need 1 camera dedicated to each register? But you might, I don't know. So I just wanted to just bring that to our attention, that's worded in that way.
I think being inclusive is good. And the reason why, because you have a lot of self-checkouts now. And that's how Walmart catch everybody. They don't think they have cameras on those self-checkouts. So they steal a lot. And Walmart could get you for a stick of gum. So it may be just good to be inclusive and then we monitor it. It's okay.
Okay.
All right.
And then
Go ahead.
one other question, how are we defining high-risk businesses? Would that be a business that has some type of nuisance file against them? Because I'm thinking of a recent situation that has a nuisance clause, then would that then tip this ordinance that they have to have cameras?
Hold on 1 second. Let's see.
That would be a question for city attorney. What would the definition be for a high-risk business?
Really, honestly, I guess that would have to be defined by you all. But what I looked at were businesses that sold alcohol or that were in high traffic areas, like liquor stores, gas stations. Even in some instances, depending on how much traffic it is, it could be a Family Dollar, actually, right? So it really just depends on the frequency of travel and traffic that comes in and out of that edifice.
Because here it says other high-risk businesses with liquor licenses. So it's so could it be?
Right, I guess it couldn't be a Family Dollar. You're right. Yeah, well, any business with a liquor license, unless you wanted to modify that piece.
Well, because it says high-risk business with liquor license. So could it just be high-risk business and not necessarily?
It could be, but that would then include, like I said, your Family Dollars, other high-risk businesses, depending on whether or not you consider them to be high risk. For example, if there was a hotel that, for example, we had in court and we did a nuisance on.
Right.
Theoretically, under this ordinance, that hotel, if they sell alcohol, and I believe they do, and their bar area could be considered to have to comply with this. If that's your intent, then yes. If that's not your intent, then maybe carve it out a little bit differently.
Okay, I understand. Because here it says convenience stores also. So that's not, they don't necessarily have a liquor license.
No, they do. They have the beer and wine. Your convenience stores have to be on wine licenses
Okay.
that they sell.
So I guess my question is, would this pertain to, like, let's say a dollar store? Because that's not covered.
The way it's written now, no, ma'am. If we take the with an alcohol license out, it will.
Okay, I just want to bring that to our attention.
Okay. I just got a note just to your point. Chief Buchanan just sent me a note that says the police define high-risk businesses based on the number of 911 calls per month.
And that's
Still
good to
kind of
know,
broad,
and they'll be considered high risk and nuisances. All right, so we'll keep that language in there, and the only thing we'll change, so Madam Clerk, do we have to change, is just, I think it's just only one change for this particular ordinance, and that's for
On
cameras to
B3.
have, go ahead, I'm sorry.
So what I put down is that there's a change on section B3, and we're changing it from having a camera at each pump to having a camera at each bay that covers each and every pump.
Okay.
Unobstructed view of each and every pump, right?
Thank you. Can I get a motion?
Another
Oh, I'm
question.
sorry.
So what about this part about the high risk with liquor license? Because this wouldn't cover Dollar Tree. But would that be liquor but what if they don't have a liquor license?
If the business does not have a liquor license, they wouldn't be covered by this. That's what I'm saying. If you intend to cover businesses that are considered high risk that don't have a liquor license, then we need to remove liquor license from this if that's this body's intent.
Well, that's what I wanted to ask you all. Not necessarily, no. All right, I yield, Madam Mayor Pro Tem.
All right, so can I get a motion to, we need to amend the motion?
How you say this? Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the ordinance amending the City of East Point's Georgia Code of Ordinance to require all gas stations, liquor stores, convenience stores, and other high-risk business with a liquor license or other nuisance issues to install video surveillance cameras with the amendment of section 3, subsection B, item number 3, to change the verbiage with regards to the camera.
Would you like the clerk to read it
Yes.
into the record?
Yes, read it into the record. Thank you.
Or we can have the city attorney read it into the record. I apologize.
The change?
You ever read the change into
Yes.
the record?
Absolutely.
So the clerk could have it.
I actually emailed it to you, Madam Clerk, as well, but the changes are going to be on section B3, and where it reads currently that the let me go back to it a second. Where it reads currently that all VSS are required to have no less than one camera dedicated to each pump located on the property where the convenience store operates. It's going to be changed to say theoretically or generally, all VSS are required to have no less than one camera affixed towards the end of each bay, and said camera shall show an unobstructed view of any and all pumps at all times.
Can I get a second
I have discussion.
discussion? Mr. Butler?
I don't agree with us having the cameras on each bay. If they can just see all the pumps, that's unnecessary. Now, that's where I am with it. They took that out?
We took it out. We took it out.
That's not what he just
So
said. though.
no, you took out having them on each pump, and you want them on each bay.
Yeah,
Now
nah.
Councilmember Butler saying not on each bay.
Right, just, I think the language is clear, as long as there's an unobstructed view of each pump, then that's how the original language is, and that's the language I support.
Now your
Add
question,
additional cameras is just an additional expense for these businesses, and it's not necessary.
the question becomes, if there are cameras, for example, Councilmember Butler, if you don't mind having a bird's eye camera that shows each pump, the concern becomes, does said bird eye camera have zoom capability that in the event that there's something occurring on a pump that's in your far distance, that bird eye camera can zoom in far enough to get that detailed information? It's more likely if you had them on, I guess, the bay as opposed to like one big bird's eye camera that shows everything?
So let me just put it on the record. I'm opposed to this issue because I think we're burdening these gas stations with additional costs when most of them already have cameras. But in the spirit of cooperation, I am willing to amend that so that as long as we have a clear, unobstructed view of the pump so that we can catch crime, it's fine. But additional legislation to do things like that, I'm just not with it. So, but I am amenable to meeting people halfway. But having a pump, that's almost just like saying having a camera at every pump. And it's already a legal issue with that. So if you could get an unobstructed view of each pump, whether that takes 1 camera, 2 cameras, or 10 cameras, that legislation covers all of that. Now, that's just what I'm willing to vote for.
Councilwoman comments.
So I don't, and that was what we originally said, and I think what we were trying to put in some of what Councilmember Cook was saying, but, and I don't know, I'm not throwing you under the bus, but just what I'm saying, we were just trying to make it more plain, but that was the original intent. It was to have it that, what I initially said, to make sure that the camera gives us a clear, unobstructed view of all of the pumps. So are we good with that? Or, I mean, are we cutting? And I understand what Councilmember Butler is saying, not necessarily making them put an extra number of cameras there, but the main thing is that we want to make sure that the camera that you do have installed gives us a clear view of all of your pumps. However many pumps that is, however many cameras those are, we just want to make sure that we can see every pump that's on your property. So I don't know what's the best way to word it.
All right, so Councilwoman, let's go to Councilwoman Bailey real quick, and then we'll let the city attorney chime in after that.
That's fine.
So the same thing though, as far as the registers. So we're saying a dedicated camera for the register, so that's the same thing should apply, whatever wording we're saying for the pumps. Yes. I yield, Madam Mayor Pro Tem.
Okay, so city attorney, do we need to bring this back, or can we have?
Y'all have made a couple of changes.
I know,
to it.
and I think what they were doing is, I think they're going back to the original version. I think everybody's in agreement with the original version. And then with the cameras behind the register, they want that too. But I want to mind you, like when you go into CVS, you have several registers. You even have one over at the photo shop. You got one that kind of help you with the candy kind of aisle, and then you got some with cosmetics. So when you say that, you have to be kind of, because if you say one camera but you got different stations and you have a self-checkout, you might want to add the camera. I'm amenable to the whole thing, but I'm just saying, I'm just thinking CVS has like a different bays.
Yes.
Right? All right, so, and I don't think that will be burdensome. But I think like when you get Family Dollar and the register right there together, then you may be able to see the whole thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right. I think we need to leave it like it is, city attorney. Yes, I think it'd be great. I think we're ready to move.
So leave it as it is?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I think so. Do we have an agreement? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries as is. All right.
Okay.
All right, so let's do I think we have one more, number 27. Can I get a motion?
Madam Mayor Pro Tem,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion that we waive the first reading of the ordinance number 27.
It's been moving property second. Can we waive the first reading? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Is there another motion?
Madam Mayor Pro Tem,
Mhm.
I'd like to make a motion that we adopt the ordinance to amend Part 4 of the City of East Point's Code and Ordinance by adding Section 1-1092 green commute options for employees.
Second.
All right, it's been moving property second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, so motion carries. All right, comments from council. Are there any comments from council? We have
Thank you, Madam Mayor Pro Tem, and I'll be brief. I think today everyone's mindset is on the passing of the late First Lady, Rosalind Carter. And I just want to share a brief experience that I had with the First Lady that took place some years ago when I worked for one of the large insurance companies. I got a call from the CEO one day. They immediately show up at his office, told me that we had a VIP coming to see him, and there were some logistical things I had to take out. Had to set up real fast. So after I got my marching orders, I realized that the first thing I had to do was be prepared to meet a limousine driven by Secret Service. And the passenger was going to be First Lady Carter. And I was to bring her to the CEO's office. We spent about 4 minutes in light communication and traveled to the CEO's office. So I knock on the door, the CEO opens the door, welcomes the First Lady, and tells me, this is only half of your orders. Please see my secretary on the way out. The second part of that visit required me to make sure that, number one, the limousine that the First Lady was riding in, driven by Secret Service personnel, was already in the outgoing lane of the drive from the parking lot. That I also made arrangements for the police officer who was paid by the entire building management, even though we were the largest tenant, that police officer, when I told him to, would leave his station, be outside on the sidewalk, and prepares to stop all traffic on Peace Street. And basically everybody followed their attention. The First Lady was extremely funny and a very nice person to be with for about 4 minutes. And somehow that happened decades ago, and I never forgot it. Thank you.
Great story.
Thank you, Madam Mayor Pro Tem. Just two quick things. First things, I'd like a huge shout out to Director Pinkett and his staff. I had an opportunity to visit, to sit in on their inaugural academic bowl. The kids of East Point, they were nothing short of amazing. And I think we were supposed to go against Atlanta Public Schools, but I think they got scared when they found out who we had. So we ended up, they ended up doing the academic bowl, and they just split the team. So you had East Point Green and East Point Gray. And just the stuff, and I really got into it because I was trying to figure out how many of the questions. I said, these kids not going to be smarter than me. So I kind of hung with them for a little bit, but just a huge shout out to, the amazing things that they're doing with those kids over there. So what they're looking to do is to bring it forward within all the other schools. They're even looking to bring it up to the middle schools and the high schools as well. But they are doing a phenomenal job with those kids over there. That's the first thing. And my next thing is I want to congratulate all of the winners for my second annual 100 givings of thanks. We had a great time. I'm out there today. I was able to gather up 100 turkeys, 100 bunches of collard greens, and 100 Patti LaBelle sweet potato pies over at First Malibu, and we passed those out to the employees. When I drew the names, I actually called each one of them personally and had conversations. So Mr. Thomas is over in Public Works. I spoke to him and his wife, Hun, because she could not believe that they got turkey and collard greens, and some employees even said they had never won anything before. So it was just good, just to be able to give back to them, because at the end of the day, all the people that we have, the employees, they are the pulse, the heartbeat of this city. They are our boots on the ground. If it wasn't for them, the city would not run. And I'm gonna run down real name, all departments that participated. We had sanitation, warehouse, economic development, public works, the jail, power department, planning and zoning, Parks and Recs, customer service, HR, the fire, police, finance, buildings and grounds, and clerk's office. Everybody from each division of labor, someone actually ended up winning. We had about, out of the 100, 10 did not show up. They didn't come to receive their baskets, but I did take those over to the Bowden Community Center. And those seniors, they were tickled pink, and they were trying to figure out how they were going to win. So I left that to Ms. Usher. I said, you figure it out. I got 10, but you got 50 sitting in here, so she figured it out how she did it, but I left. But again, congratulations to all of the recipients, and that's it. So happy holidays, everybody. Be safe, and that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Bailey, and then Josh. Then you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Two announcements. The first one is we are having our Silver Fox Ball. That will be December 7th. That will be at the Legacy Center. I think the start time is 6 o'clock. If you have any questions, feel free to email me at jbutler@eastpointcity.org. You can also RSVP there. My second announcement is Councilman Joshua Butler, in conjunction with Omega Psi Phi Fraternity PKK chapter, we're looking to feed 20 families. So again, inbox me at jbutler@eastpointcity.org to get your food box for the holiday. That's 20 families that we're looking to provide a full meal for. Just email me. The first 20 families will get a holiday meal box so that you could prepare. And in closing, I want to apologize to the city, to the people of East Point. There are some questions that were asked that should have been answered so that we can have complete transparency. That did not happen today, but we will make sure that you know about those answers to those concerning questions.
Thank you, Councilwoman Butler, Councilmember Butler. Councilmember Bailey.
Thank you, Madam Pro Tem. I just want to thank the city manager's office for conducting the Mosaic training overview. Deputy City Manager Elias did a great job over at East Washington. A lot of feedback, I think a lot of spirited conversations. So I want to thank you for doing that. And then the last session will be December the 6th. That is a change date, so take note of that in Center Park. So we're looking forward to that. The 3 neighborhoods are part of a grant, and that will conclude that, going out to the neighborhoods, getting their input. But I'm thinking that will, Elias will continue to meet with the different neighborhoods. Then also Tri-Cities Band did a great job at Rake Day with Jefferson Park neighborhood. The band was there, and they had a parade down Jefferson Avenue, and it was really a great time in partnership with Jefferson Park neighborhood as well as Jefferson Avenue Baptist Church. So everyone came together on Rake Day. So thanks to everyone that came out. That was a great time. I yield, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Great job. Councilmember Robinson, please come.
Thank you, Madam Mayor Pro Tem. By the way, you did a great job tonight. Shout out to the our city clerk's office for organizing all those turkeys, because I think we was on both sides of the city passing out close over 400 turkeys, if I remember correctly. And I think we held down Jefferson Park area. I know our other colleagues held down the other side of the area, and there was nothing but a love fest of just giving out turkeys. And for those who had to do a personal delivery, I was delivering the turkeys up until yesterday, dropping off for some of the ones who could not make it. And it does my heart well just to get the response back that, they are creating meals and opportunities for their loved ones because of featured around the turkey. So that was a good day for all of us as well. In reference to the public comments, I heard some of the restaurants and bars speak, and full disclosure, Chairs is one of my favorite spots, and they get it right. That business model that Chairs does gets it right. They serve the community, they get us in, get us out, and that's a really good model to look at, how they serve and treat the community and others. So let's look how we're going to treat everybody fairly as we move forward in this process. I yield, Madam Mayor Pro Tem.
Great night. All right, so comments from executive session. City Manager?
No, Madam Mayor Pro Tem, not for us.
All right, so City Attorney?
Unfortunately, I do have one litigation matter.
Is there personnel? One personnel, two personnel. All right, so can I get a motion to adjourn? All right, second. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion passed. We'll be right back. It shouldn't take us long. It's been moving properly second. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carries. Executive session, to approve executive session meetings. Can I get a motion?
Motion to approve executive session minutes. Second.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor? All those opposed? All right. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Move for a motion to proceed as discussed in executive session for one legal item.
Second.
Oh, okay, second. All right, it's been, the motion's been second and, properly second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. Can we, Mr. Cook?
Madam Mayor Pro Tem,
Mm-hmm.